All right, Maddie, we're back with the After Hour show. How's Bitcoin performing?
Hey, you know what? We've seen Bitcoin moving relatively sideways. It's boring, and that'll flush investors out a lot quicker than upwards or downwards price action. So, frustrating, but I think it's probably very healthy considering we've seen a lot of sets of impulses with very little correction and pullback. So I think this is probably the best outcome we could have currently for Bitcoin right now.
Thank you for getting us going there, Maddie. We're going to have a great show for the team here today. We're going to talk about Raoul Pal. We did like an hour session on YouTube that the team was spamming in the Discord. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, talk about 3 things that you should not do so that you're not a crypto failure. We're also going to be talking about the Biden administration rolling out some more taxes for you guys. So you guys will have to give more to the government here, and we don't like to do that. We're also going to talk about maybe a little bit about demand for Bitcoin ETFs. I know you guys love talking or like to hear us talk about XRP and Casper, and there's going to be none of that today, unfortunately. So you're going to have to bear with what we're talking about today because it is a little bit more macro. I don't want to go all the way in to what Powell said on his points, but he did bring up some interesting things that if you're not in the crypto charge community might sound a little bit new to you. Constantly on the live shows on the website, I hear Maddie talk about altcoins and Bitcoin halving. I hear Dan talk about global liquidity and the Fed and Fed actions when the Fed's looking at jobs, when they're looking at inflation, prices, and Powell didn't talk in depth of all those things, but I already knew when I was hearing him talk on my walk this morning. I was like, okay, why is the Fed doing this? Because of this. Why is global liquidity very impactful for crypto markets, actually all markets. So we're going to be talking a little bit more in depth of that. But Maddie, Bitcoin down, looking to close 12% down in April. And of course, this is going to be like the worst close since the depths of the bear market. If it closes a little closer to 11.5 or under, it will be since August of 23. So these things happen, Maddie. What is our outlook right now? Because, I was telling you before the show, people on X, Twitter are constantly saying, this is the time to be buying, which I agree, it is the time to be buying. But they're also like, but I just want it to go up. And listen, guys, like if you're going to look at this, if you're going to constantly take your money that you get every single month and throw it into crypto, you have to be ready for moments like this. And it's not like complaining. It's shut up, no emotions, buy crypto. That's it. And that's the mantra I try to uphold. Maddie, what's the motto right here for our team here?
So, what we've been seeing with the crypto market as a whole, obviously is different than last cycle. And that's one of the things that we always need to consider is that we can look for nuances, we can look for clues in what's happened in previous cycles, and we can say, all right, there's a good probability of it occurring in such a way, but we're always going to have a different set of macro circumstances, a different set of macroeconomic factors that we have to consider. And those are going to affect the markets in a slightly different way. Now, with Bitcoin moving sideways right now, that's actually a very good thing. 60K, that's a very crucial level. I don't think that that's, alpha information. I think that you guys can agree by just looking at the charts or kind of looking at the daily or weeklies and, kind of see what everyone's talking about. 60K has been a pretty decent minor floor of support. The next major level of support for Bitcoin is over $8,000 lower than that floor there. So what we are rooting for in the short term is for Bitcoin to maintain above 60K to however long it wants to continue within the compression structure that it's in now. And then for Bitcoin dominance to fall off and for us to see a resurgence in altcoins. Now, I'd have seen, a handful of altcoins start to kind of show that there is some resilience, some buyers stepping in off some of these key levels, Helium being a great example of that, HBAR being a great example of that. And there's always leaders in different segments of the bull run as well, right? So you maybe see that first set of coins run in that first segment, get a big cool off. And that doesn't mean that first set of assets is going to be that second set of leaders in that next leg up. And if you're an Elliott wave person, you'll generally believe in 5 total waves, and wave 3 is a really big wave. And I don't think we've gotten wave 3 on these alts. And some of these alts, I think we're still kind of in that first phase. So I think that we're in definitely a great position. If you are a altcoin investor or want to maximize your dollars, I would definitely still be looking at the altcoin market right now, right? We've talked about it. Bitcoin in the 60s up to 120, 130K, you're getting a 2x, which is great, right? It's still way better than what you're going to get most likely out of the Dow or the S&P. But when you look at even just some of the 50% retraces that we could get in some of these altcoins, absolutely outpacing Bitcoin at a six-figure Bitcoin. So I think right now is a great spot for some assets to DCA. Some of them we have limit orders. Some of my limit orders did trigger recently. And I'm definitely being very tactical here. I'm definitely not rushing in or feeling like I need to deploy every single cent I have in my account, because we will have additional crashes on the way up and we want to be able to add on higher lows. But overall, I think the market is primed for another leg up.
Absolutely, Maddie. And just, you're talking about Bitcoin right there, looking at a 2x there. That is what HBAR did just this past month. You had the
Right.
opportunity to buy HBAR at a significant low and then see it do 109%, a 2 to 2.5x in a month span, which would have been a great trade, which is probably what you're going to see on Bitcoin this bull run from this point right now. So, team, you have to be in a community, you have to be around people that are doing the things that you want to do, that are trading and are, investing and expanding their knowledge. And the only way you're going to do that is that crypto charge. I'm sorry. We can't spend 2 hours, 3 hours here and, hold your hand all the way there. You have to go to the platform that we dissected and we picked up the pieces, put it all together and create a website. We got the community in the Discord. So you guys need to join us over there. Code YouTube. Maddie, anything you want to share about that? I know I talk about it a lot. Anything you want to share? Anything that I'm missing out on when it comes to crypto charged?
Yeah, so with our program, guys, we do updates Monday through Friday. So we do a full show covering a little bit about everything, a little bit about the macro, any big news events. We take a look at the charts every single day. We have our Discord community in there, so you guys can ask questions. We do live workshops in there once a week. We have trade ideas in there for some more shorter term trade ideas. And again, on the website, there's tons of resources on there as well. If you guys are brand new to crypto, we have a beginner's course that's very quick and easy. As we do additional workshops and tutorials, those constantly get uploaded to the website, so that bank of information constantly gets bigger for you guys. And with code YouTube, you get 50% off any membership. So either $50 a month or $49 for the year, but you have to use code YouTube at checkout. I don't want to have to take the full amount out of your bank account and then issue you guys a refund and wait for 3 days to get it back. So make sure you guys drop code YouTube when you check out. That way you're getting the best pricing right away. And either one of those memberships comes with a 30-day free trial. So at any point you decide, hey, day 29, this is not for me. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Just let me know you want to go ahead and get canceled and we'll go ahead and get you guys squared away. But we want to make sure you guys have the sufficient time to really check it out, understand kind of what we're about, understand our program a little bit, and then kind of just make a decision for yourself if it's the right program for you.
I love that, Maddie, and I don't want to harp on it anymore because we're going to talk about it towards the end of the show. But I just you were just talking about strategy and things that come along with crypto charge. And if you watch Pal's thing, which it got a good amount of views and people were talking about it on Twitter, and so that's why we're going to talk a little bit about it. But one of the things that stuck out to me was number one of the things he said is he holds 1% in meme coins. And I laugh because it doesn't matter to him, but it matters for you because you might look at that and be like, oh, that's my green light that it's okay for me to buy meme coins. No, you work at McDonald's, and so you losing that $25 is you losing,
Right.
that hour that you put into work. So you are just hurting yourself. This guy has I've seen, $50 million net worth. I've seen upwards of $300 million net worth when it comes to Pal's name. So you guys are not in the same ballpark. So that does not give you the right to buy meme coins. I wanted to say that first. And then number two is he's very vague when it comes to, he talks about, get in, don't F this up. And he's very vague when it comes to, the actual exit plan, and it was like a feeling towards him, It's probably similar to the people that are around me, like Dan is a big on-chain guy, so he's looking at the MVRV Z-score when it comes to, okay, when does that time look to sell? When's that right time? And, Powell probably takes that approach too. While, I think you would agree with me, Maddie, we need to plan a little bit more earlier than that. We need to be on TradingView, looking at those extensions and making a game plan for, what these crypto profits look like, what happens after we take those profits and things of that nature. We'll get into it more at the end. I just wanted to say that because he was vague on that things. And that's where we step in. Crypto chart steps in. It's like, okay, we'll take the reins from here, pal. You just go over there. Thank you for the data. Thank you, Xpan, for all the charts. But we're gonna take them to the promised land from here. So, team, stick around to the end of the show. I already know we're halfway there, but stick around. Make sure you like this video if you get something good. But we're gonna get into the content now. Let's talk about Bitcoin ETFs, a big catalyst, a big talking point this year, at the top of this year, where we saw 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs approved. And now we're looking at a coincidence here. No demand from the Bitcoin ETFs. If you're wondering why Bitcoin is stuck in the 60K region, look no further. The ETFs have stopped accumulating coins for a while now. They are the only game in town. No demand from them means no price appreciation. Maddie, is this true?
You know, I love and hate the idea of ETFs, and I'll kind of tie this back to the metal community. I do personally hold physical, silver and gold. There's a little bit of a hedge. It certainly doesn't represent any meaningful amount of my net worth, but I hold a little bit because I enjoy, the idea of having an asset that's going to go, up in value over time, and that I could potentially either trade for other things or kind of have an off the books savings account for myself, and that's kind of how I look at it. But when you first had the the gold ETFs launch, you had so many people, excited about gold. You had a big rally for almost 8 years on gold after that ETF launch. And now the community will blame the ETFs and the paper money for the reasoning as to why gold and silver aren't going up in value. But that's just not the reality. We know that risk on assets, and I'm going to say it, metals are also a risk on asset, regardless of how you want to believe. They move with economic expansion. So when we look at what's happening with Bitcoin right now and really the altcoin market and in the stock market, it hasn't been great across the board, right? You would say that, how can we also say that about the stock market? The stock market is having a rough time here as well. And a lot of this big spill came from that soft GDP number, right? Which ties directly back to, are we in a period of economic contraction or expansion? When you have a lesser than expected GDP growth, you are obviously not in a period of mass economic expansion. So when we try to blame, especially when they're spot ETFs, so that means they're buying dollar for dollar, right? So that means for every Bitcoin that's in the ETF, there's one actual Bitcoin in a custodial wallet that, represents as such. So it's really no different than the demand that I would have for Bitcoin on Coinbase or the demand for Bitcoin on Kraken or any other exchange, because if it's true spot ETF, it doesn't matter, right? Because you're just buying one for one. So everybody's always looking for the narrative. They're always looking for the straw man to build up to kind of attack as to this is why. We continue to kind of see these crumble and understand again that really a lot of these are just very fluffy narratives. And that also comes back to the Bitcoin halving, right? We did not see immediate price appreciation ahead after the Bitcoin halving. We in fact saw the new all-time high come before the Bitcoin halving. So, I'm not saying that these indicators should be ignored. I just don't think we should put this enormous, exponential weight on them as if they are the end-all be-end indicators. And again, ETFs are a great form of liquidity for somebody, or access to liquidity that somebody who doesn't want to have a Coinbase account or whatever, and they just want to have all their stuff in one area. It's great. But I do not think that ETFs are the only thing that drive these markets. We've, had enormous price action in these markets well before ETFs were ever a thing. So, again, big straw man argument, not a fan.
Yeah, one may ask, Maddie, it's like, well, what about October, November, December of last year when there was no spot Bitcoin ETF?
Right.
So someone may ask that. It may be me, but let's just move along here. I'm not even going to, I want to get to some of the things that I want to talk about here. President Biden calls for 44.6% capital gains tax rate. President Biden proposed what I just said, I'm not going to repeat the whole thing, in the 2025 government budget, which includes a 25% tax on unrealized gains for high net worth individuals, making it the highest in history. The proposal targets individuals with taxable income above 1 million. So if you're under 1 million like me, we're all good. We're all good. And investment income above 400,000, aiming to level the playing field between high ordinary income and investment income earners. Maddie, your thoughts?
It's disgusting. Taxation is theft, period. The government somehow says, whoosh, you've been born, you've entered a social contract with us, which really just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But first of all, capital gains have constantly gone up over the years. It's disgusting. We saw Canada hike theirs to an astronomical level. And really what you're doing is you're going to be driving people to other countries where they're not going to be subject to this level of taxation, right? What we're going to probably see is a migration of some of these really, really high net worth individuals moving most of their stuff to shell companies outside of those countries and really just having very minimal assets in countries like the US or Canada or other places that have very high capital gains tax. But let's talk about the more important concept of this, raising taxes, whatever. The government wants to raise taxes every single year because they can't get their spending under control. I've never seen so many lockouts like we've had now where magically we can't balance the budget. We'll stop spending outside of the budget that we've agreed on, right? Like it's a pretty simple concept. But the unrealized gains is attacking people who have how do I put this without saying the word illegal here? It's we're avoiding taxes in a legal way, right? By borrowing against our assets we talked about previously. So if I have, for example, amassed an enormous amount of wealth and I continue to put that into the stock market, and instead of selling my assets, right? So that Microsoft share that I bought at $20, it's worth $1,000 now, right? So instead of selling that for the $1,000 and then spending that money and then paying those taxes on that, I can take a loan out against my portfolio obviously at a certain loan to value ratio, which means a couple things, right? One, I still own that Microsoft stock. It's still mine. But two, I actually have now a tax deductible loan that I am taking out. So I can still spend all this money, but I don't owe taxes on it because you don't pay taxes on loans that you take out, right? That'd be the equivalent of me, having to pay taxes on the loan I have on my vehicle. It makes zero sense, right? So what they're trying to do is they're trying to eliminate that, trying to close that gap for people. I personally don't have an issue with people, not giving over an egregious amount of money that they've earned to the government, who has proven time and time again that they cannot balance or keep a budget, right? We know that the Pentagon has failed, 6 audits in a row now. We know that we spend most of our money blowing up people in other countries. Does not go here to Americans. So, I think that it's a terrible proposition all around. And I hope that, our representatives, who again are supposed to represent our interest, vote against such atrocities, and we're able to, pay less, keep more in our pockets, and not have to give money away from gains that haven't even been realized yet, right? The big drawback to that as well is, let's say at the time of let's call it the screenshot, right? They say on this date, at this time of the year, on December 31st, you were up $120,000, right? And then let's say the next day the market crashes, 30%, but you didn't sell anything. But you still now have a tax bill due based on that $120,000 that you had unrealized from the year before. It makes zero sense. It's basically just the authority to have direct theft out of people's pockets. It's absolutely disgusting. So, if this does become something more serious where, we're voting on these kinds of things, make sure you guys are calling, emailing your representatives, bother them, get out on the streets. We can't let this happen.
Yeah, I agree. When I talk to my peers are all older than me, Maddie. I mean, from you all the way up, and millennials and Gen X have two big complaints. It's number one, they just love to complain about my generation, Gen Z. And then also, these are high net worth individuals. They love to complain about this idea of unrealized gains and those getting taxed, which is not real. When we're taking out, imagine that in crypto, and then your Bitcoin falls to 50K like that, and now your loan to value doesn't make sense. So that obviously doesn't operate in the real world. I would love to see them try to execute that and have a bunch of, an angry mob of people, angry mob of rich people getting mad at that. I'm a contrarian. I just like to hear people complain sometimes. It's my fault. But all right, let's talk about Raoul Pal. You guys spammed in the Discord. I see it all over Twitter. Everyone has something to say about this. And if you've been tapped into the crypto charts community, none of this is really new. I think the charts that he displayed are some that we haven't pulled up yet when looking at the one he pulled up about internet and crypto. It was just a different chart. It was a different pane, a different color than what we've shown before. But, looking into the future, he's talked a lot about, tokenizing real world assets, which is something Maddie loves to talk about. And none of this is new. But, on his talking point, if you were like a month ago, he had his conference. It was the XPAM conference, and it was in Miami. And a lot of individuals spoke there. We're talking about like the CEO of Van Eyck or some other ones, president of Coinbase Asset Management, CIO of Cyber Capital. A lot of people spoke there, and what Rauol was speaking there was about the tokenization of real world assets. Maddie, how big is this? Because I feel like this is a big use case in crypto.
It is probably the biggest use case in crypto, hands down. I think the only secondary, I guess we could still consider this kind of the settlement of securities because, you look at, homes and, there's a loan attached to those and a lot of very specific rules that are intact when it comes to transferring loans and, who owns the loan and requirements for how much money, loan to value has to go down. But the tokenization of the stock market, tokenization of the commodities market is going to be a very big and very powerful move. And this is not even a controversial take. I would say that we have most large money managers out here expecting trillions of dollars of tokenized assets within the next 6 years, even we've seen predicted to come on chain here. And again, that doesn't just revolve around Bitcoin. That doesn't just revolve around XRP. There's going to be a lot of different vehicles and chains that are going to be utilized for interoperability to help settle these. But it opens up liquidity, right? So we're able to look at more fractionalized shares of things. That opens up one thing, but also the settlement. So when you are trading the stocks right now, right, you want to own a stock, you have like a T+1 or a T+2. So it's trade plus 1 day or trade plus 2 days. So meaning that there's like this period where they're like, you own the stock, but you can't do anything with it, right? I can't give it to a friend. I can't send it to someone else. It kind of just sits in like this limbo. But when you have instant finality over whatever network it may be, right? Even let's talking about, it's a 5-minute validation with Ethereum or a 3-second validation with XRP. We can be confident because that security is tokenized, that we can go ahead and transfer that with instant finality because we can all see on the blockchain exactly what happened. So I think that's going to be a very big concept. Like I said, real estate's going to be another big one as well. Being able to, either buy into little fractionalized shares of debt pools, being able to have retail investors have access to the real estate market in a way they didn't previously. Being able to fractionalize your own property, even to, get loans in DeFi pools. And again, this is all going to take a lot of regulation, a lot of time to become really, really excellent. But I do see the entire market, right? We're talking about everything running on some sort of DLT solution at some point in the future. Again, not just one DLT solution. You're looking 20 years from now, you're probably talking about a $50 trillion plus market cap for crypto as a whole. So, it's really not just about money. It's not just about, oh, hey, I can send XRP from me to my friend's wallet as fast as possible. It's about layering real world assets over DLT solutions. And that's where the value transfer comes in, right? So when you hear people talking about getting in early and they're like, I should have gotten in early, I missed Bitcoin. Yeah, you missed Bitcoin, but you didn't miss all the other solutions that are going to help usher in a new wave of liquidity for real world assets. And I think that's very exciting. So I don't feel like I'm late at all. You're not late at all. If you decide to start investing today, 5 years from now, people are going to look at you and go, damn, I missed it. You were early to it, right? So I think that there's a lot of very bullish periods ahead for us when it comes to real world adoption, not just price action as a whole.
Good job, Maddie. I'm glad you said all that because I was going to go to another part, but we just don't have enough time for it. And I was going to go to another part of Raul's. He brought up a chart that we've seen a lot. I've seen it from Charlie Bolello. I'll just show it this one right here that I'm showing. The Charlie Bolello and Will Clemente has pulled up this chart in different versions, but it's just looking at different assets the last 14 years and Bitcoin being that. So obviously one would wonder, what does the next 10 years look like? I don't think it's that hard to wonder. I think Bitcoin's going to be that guy, if not the altcoins and, XRP, Casper, and all our picks. Maddie, last thing I want to talk about here. Powell said this like towards the end of his little segment here, and this is what I want to get your reaction to. He said like 3 crypto don'ts, 3 things to not F this up is what he said. He had a don't F this up segment, and these are the 3 things you should not do. And I want to get your reaction to these things. The first thing he says is no leverage. Do not leverage at all. Number 2, he said, crypto storage. He said a lot of the crypto exchanges are safe, but he recommends to put it into cold storage. And then he also said, don't FOMO into stupid shit. That is a quote from him. Are these things accurate? What do you think about these 3 things that he said to not F this up at this moment? Because what he's saying is this is a very important moment. Don't do these things.
I think he's spot on. I think it's very simple, but very effective advice. No leverage, I would say, especially if you're new in this space. You have to be very careful with leverage. Leverage is a tool, and you have to be careful with tools, right? If you've never experimented with psychedelics before, on your very first time taking psychedelics, is it a good time to take 7 grams of mushrooms? No, probably not, right? You should probably understand how your body interacts with it. You should probably understand the concept of what happens to your body on psychedelics before you do such a thing, right? So same thing with leverage here. If you don't understand liquidation points, if you don't understand how quickly market makers can manipulate the markets and drive price just past their liquidation point, wipe everyone out of the market, and then bring us back up right to where we were, you're not ready to use leverage. The only time I personally use leverage is when I'm doing specific leverage trades. So I have a risk amount that I already have decided. I have a stop loss in place. I have a take profit, and I have a risk to reward ratio that makes sense for that. For your major spot holdings or any holdings that you want to hold long term, Agree. Do not use leverage. There is a handful of people that make a lot of money and they pick just the right spot and price takes off and it never comes back to those zones and they're able to close out their 100Xs. But more often than not, you will hear the horror story of somebody who didn't understand. They levered up to 100X, they levered up to 200X, and it only takes a tiny price movement in order to wipe out your entire position, right? So, again, we're already putting enough risk in the space. No need to introduce additional risk. Crypto storage, of course, you guys know cold storage, right? Like, let's not leave meaningful amounts of money on exchange. Celsius, FTX, you guys know the deal. Don't be stupid with that. And obviously, don't FOMO into stupid shit. Again, with the meme coins, if you guys want to gamble, you guys want to get involved, do what you want to do. But I just saw another story today. I think it was called Bonker Killer or something like that. I can't tell you how much money is trapped in this project now. Accounts locked, nothing you can do about it. You cannot guarantee unless there's like a big SEX listing, right? Which is what I've always said. If you're going to trade meme coins, trade them on a largely liquid centralized exchange like Coinbase, right? That way at least you can exit your position, right? The second you put all this money into a DEX-oriented project and there's no centralized exchange where you can sell, you are removing major probabilities out of your favor. So please, guys, don't feel like whatever anyone's telling you have to buy today, you have to get into. Like I mentioned many times, everything should come with a certain level of thought and research. These are your dollars that you worked hard for. I know that most of you guys work hard for your money. I know I work hard for my money, and I don't want to be wasting my money on things that are very, very high risk for a high reward. I'm looking for that nice balance there. So guys, just be careful. Think about it. Don't feel like you ever have to rush into anything.
Matty, the last thing, we're going a little bit over here, team, so you better like this video. I swear, if you do not like this video, I'm going to find you and never mind. But the last thing I want to get your thoughts on here, Matty, is I've heard this time and time again. I feel like from any analyst that hops on Twitter or YouTube, they keep talking about this thing where it's like, once we go past 70, once we go past 80, once we go past 90K Bitcoin, that is when there's no turning back. That is, Powell said this, that is the time. Do you agree with this? Because this is like, okay, let's tie this all together here, all right? The moment's very important. Yes, you should be buying altcoins. Yes, you should be buying Bitcoin if that's your thing. Matty, now that we're doing all of this, and now that we're at some point going to see that move upwards, is that where there's like no looking back? DCA is off, now it's time to employ high strategy, limit-based orders on pullbacks. What does that look like once we reach those moments?
I'm never of the belief of never coming back to this price again. We saw that narrative so many times when Bitcoin breached 20K, it made a new all-time high and everyone's like, it's never, ever coming back. Guys, you're stupid if you don't buy right now. What did we hit? 15.5K, right? And that's just because markets rebalance themselves over time. Market makers place large order blocks and there's way bigger players out there than you and me. I don't even care if you have a few $1 million in your account. You are a tiny little microscopic piece of shit to the rest of these people out here, okay? So when you look at where these order blocks are, market makers are incentivized to drive price back into those blocks. Sometimes they're accompanied by economic narratives. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes price just moves very, very aggressively. Sometimes price overreacts to a narrative that it wouldn't have necessarily reacted to in another environment so aggressively. So saying once we breach 80 or 90K, we're never coming back for a deep retest, I personally don't believe that. Do I think over time those retests maybe become more shallow as the market becomes more mature? Sure. But we are still investing in a technology sector, guys. When you look at the tech sector, even in the stock market, it is labeled a much higher risk vertical than everything else in the stock market, right? Obviously, much bigger reward if you're investing in the Microsofts and the Apples and everything else out there that has, a higher beta. But even within the crypto market, I think we're always going to have volatility. So I think it's very, very bold to say we will never come back and retest even just slightly below our all-time high. Let's say Bitcoin reaches 250K, and let's say Bitcoin comes back down into the mid 50s. That would not be an unreasonable balancing move to me. That would still be a higher low, right? We're still making higher highs and higher lows, but you would still get a better price than FOMOing in at 90 or 100K just to get another maybe 100K out of it. Again, a 2X from there potentially. So again, guys, never feel like it's either buy now or buy never. There will be new tech that comes along, new projects that comes along. Today in 2024, you are not looking at the end all be all for DLT. 10 years from now, we will have new solutions and new projects that of course will run along some of the big winners that from this cycle, but you're going to have lots and lots of projects fall off and funnel down, and we're going to be a little bit more picky about what we invest in over time as we kind of understand from a regulatory standpoint, as well as what's actually valuable with real world assets, right? Like once we actually have that first round of tests with tokenizing securities, tokenizing, real estate on a higher level, we'll start to understand what the needs are now that we've implemented some of these primary solutions. Because again, we are very early to the space right now. So, you're not missing out. There's going to be another cycle. There's going to be more opportunities, and very excited.
Team, we talked a lot of good topics today. The big red pepperoni candles we're seeing these altcoins, definitely hop on those. The time is now to buy. The summer is going to be great. All those things. The last thing I want to end off on this show with, Maddie, just a little fun here because I am 22 years old and you're almost 40. No, I'm just kidding. You're in your 30s. So
30 going on 40.
I wanted to. Hey, sometimes we act like old men, Maddie, but we're really young. So. Yeah. We need to embrace it, and I wanted to get some perspective from you because I saw this on Twitter. And I was like, oh, this would be a good way to just tie up the show today. Men who are over 30, give one piece of advice to men who are in their 20s. It can be about anything. So, Maddie, give me. I'm 22 years old here. I'm a young guy. I'm a minnow. I'm not a I was thinking about when you were talking about like whales earlier, like Bitcoin whales. There is Bitcoin shrimps, and then there's minnows, and I am a minnow. I'm 22 years old. So, Maddie, any advice for me here?
If you're in your 20s, I would say the number one thing, if I could go back and do it differently, I would care a lot less about what people thought of me in general. I'd be more focused on stacking my money. I'd be more focused on investing as a whole. I'd be more focused on just not being as involved in materialistic things and preparing for my future a little bit more. So, you think about all these things around you, think about, the bar scene and the club scene out there, nobody's going to be talking about that in 5 and 10 years. They're going to be people around you who either have families or investment portfolios. And, the earlier you can start preparing for those things, the more success you're going to have later on. It also is going to take a lot less money for you to start working with now in your early 20s than if you wait to start until you're in your 30s and start investing. You're going to have to put a lot more money in it and a lot more aggressively in order to make up for that same period of time where, let's say you're 21, 22, 23. Investing then is going to allow you to put less money in and have the same exact result as if somebody was in their 30s starting with 3 or 4 times that amount of money. So, don't feel like you have to measure up to other people and you have to put in the amount that they're putting in. Just look at your budget. Don't waste money on entertainment you don't need to be spending it on. Try to be a little bit more diligent and prioritize investing. If you're able to do that, you're going to have a much happier end to your 20s and, kind of just introduction to your 30s, allowing yourself to be more flexible with everything, right? Whether that be about spending more time on education, maybe taking some time off between jobs to find something you're more passionate about, right? Those are luxuries that we don't think about and you won't have if you don't start investing now in your 20s.
I love that, Maddie. Team, if you do not follow that advice, you're going to be a loser, and it's going to be, we're going to see you in the comment section complaining about, how you forgot to sell and how you didn't sell or how I saw those comments, just recently. I was like, oh, I wish I would have bought in at this price. And it's like, what are we doing here then? If you're watching the shows and not buying crypto, what are you even doing? So, team, subscribe here. We will see you guys for the Ask Maddie show, 2:30 p.m. Pacific this Wednesday. So make sure you guys show up for the premiere. Guys, I am done bringing up Zcash. You guys ask Zcash so much on our shows, and then you guys don't show up. I'm not even going to utter Zcash until it hits, $30 or something crazy. Not $30, but you know what I mean. When it, 100x it's not going to 100x. Okay, I just need to stop talking here, man. I need to stop talking here. But the point being is that we're done talking about Zcash since you guys aren't. I put in the title, I put in the thumbnail, and you guys don't show up. Okay, fine. We'll talk about Casper, we'll talk about XRP, and we'll talk about how much money we're going to make, and then we'll keep you guys happy if that's what you really want. Maddie, I think that's what we have for today. Anything you want to leave the team with here? I actually don't want the last word for today. You gave some good advice here, but give them the last word here.
No worries. No, I do appreciate you guys coming on to these shows and engaging with us. It's helped us a lot. It's helped me kind of become a little bit better of educator as a whole. I'm always learning a little bit about, myself, learning a little bit about the scene, even outside of the things I'm invested in. So I appreciate you guys coming on and leaving those comments there, and keep them coming. Make sure you guys tune in later this week for the Ask Maddie show on Wednesday, and drop your comments drop your questions in the comments so that we can go ahead and grab those for upcoming shows.
That's good, team. I'm just going to be buying Zcash. We're not even going to say anything to you. I'm just going to be buying Zcash at $22 right now, up to $30, and then we're going to be taking profits on Zcash. You're going to be like, oh, what happened? And it was like, well, you guys didn't show up for the Zcash show, so that's your fault. Anyways, team, we will see you guys on Wednesday. Bye.